Welcome to the Kind Leader Podcast, where empathy meets action in the world of leadership. Your host, Gino Degregori, engages with innovators and seasoned professionals from diverse sectors, all demonstrating the power of leading with kindness. And now, your host, Gino Degregori.
4 years ago, my guest today was sitting in a hospital bed with a migraine so severe she thought something was seriously wrong with her. She was a top-tier communication strategist advising some of the most recognizable brands in the world, and her body had just told her what her calendar wouldn't admit. She wrote about it in the Business Insider. The story went viral, and it started her on a completely different path, helping leaders integrate something most companies still won't say out loud at work: spirituality, intuition, humanity. I'm super excited to have a wonderful guest today, Elizabeth Rosenberg, with us. And we're going to be talking about a lot of those conversations that I just said. And the big thing for me is something that we don't talk about. It's really the spirituality, and especially in the business world. And there's a lot to talk about. So her background, I'm just going to give you a little bit of background. She's spent over 20 years at the very top of the communication world, helping many brands and leaders out in the field. She's the founder of the Good Advice Company, a consultancy that works with C-suite leaders on thought leadership, personal branding, and peer strategy. She's worked alongside icons like Norman Lear and Lee Clow. She's been a feature at Harvard Business Review, Forbes, and NPR. Elizabeth, welcome to the Kind Leader Podcast here. I would love for you to expand on the introduction. Tell us a little bit more about yourself, how you got to here, and about really, I want to know more about the spirituality side too as well.
I'm so excited to have this conversation. So thank you for having me. I've been in PR for over 25 years. I specialize in, as exactly what you said, personal branding and really kind of like high level kind of PR strategy and thinking. And I started incorporating a spiritual practice into my personal branding process in 2020, 2021. And it's definitely my differentiator. It makes things interesting. But I really pride myself on kind of that dance between the corporate world and the spiritual world. And when I talk about spirituality, I think about it much more as intuition and how we lean into those kind of, I think a lot of people call them gifts, but I think of them much more as skills. I think we all have access to it in different ways versus religion. So I think that's just like a really clear definition I want to put out there too.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm sure we'll be talking a little more about that and expand on that for sure. But congrats on all the success and everything you've been doing, and been thinking about this episode and really excited that we're here now and can have a deeper conversation. But first question before we dive in is, what does being a kind leader mean to you?
I think it's such an amazing question because there's so many different ways that this could go, obviously. And I think there's such a difference between kind and nice, right? And I think it's really important that we teach children the difference as well. But for me, I think a kind leader is someone who is very cognizant and intentional about their own growth. I have grown a lot as a leader. You really have to be taught how to be a manager in my mind. And I was not a great leader. And I believe that I've become one through both personal and professional growth opportunities. Now that I'm in the C-suite, I think being an intuitive and intentional connector and bringing people to the table who wouldn't normally have an opportunity to do that is a beautiful gesture of kindness, but also of very smart strategy on what the future of leadership is going to look like as well.
Got it. Good answer. I like that, the description that you're giving. Can you expand on kind of any experience that you've, like any stories as it relates to someone who's been kind to you or you've been kind to others?
I have always had very good bosses for the most part. I think from my internships in college all the way up to my last corporate job. The last corporate job that I was at, the CEO of 72andSunny, who's now a chairman, his name is Matt Jarvis. And honestly, I think his lot in life is to mentor people and to teach kindness in a really beautiful way. And so many people have complimented me on the name of my company. And I always give him the credit because he named it. During the pandemic, we were on the phone and we were just talking about, I'm like, oh my God, like it is harder to name a company than it is to name a child. Like there's just trademarks involved and there's, what do I do with this? And he's like, well, you give really good advice. And I'm like, okay. He's like, what about the good advice company? And I'm like, so I went online and I was like, oh my God, how is this available? Like, how is this website available? It's crazy. And then from there, I think it has grown into so many different things. And the way that he has always mentored, and he mentors so many people as well. And I think so much of kindness has to do with teaching people, again, like leadership skills, but also like how to show up for others when they need you the most. Mm-hmm. And he's always done such an amazing job at that. So, yeah.
It's amazing. That's amazing. I love that. When you have that, those mentors that are very intentional, right? They're not just checking the box to be like, I got to talk to somebody, right? And it's like, truly they care. Truly they want to see you succeed, right?
And I think with the mentor too, I think a lot of young people like are even reaching out to people to be like, hi, can you be my mentor? And the advice that I always give young people when they're thinking about that is you really want someone to mentor you who's in your field and knows how you work. Mm-hmm. Because your behavioral analytics and how you show up with your kind of like job description, but also how you execute things, but also how you're managing other people, you really need somebody to kind of like see you in the trenches to know how to help you grow as a leader. So start there is the best advice that I can give you first is start with somebody who knows how you work.
Absolutely.
And then go from there. And then also think about obviously reaching back, right? Once you've become mentored really well, how can you then mentor next generation of leaders?
Yeah, absolutely. Going back real quick on started defining the kind leader, you mentioned kindness is not just nice, right? Or it's not nice. Essentially, people kind of misinterpret that. How have you experienced that in the, being in large corporate organizations, supporting those things, especially in the boardrooms, let's say, what does that actually look like? Like if we can define kindness in a boardroom where stakes are really high, people are, you have to make some hard calls. What does that look like from your experience and what have you seen?
I don't think that you can have kindness without empathy. And I don't think that every leader embodies empathy. Like everyone on LinkedIn is like, I'm an empathetic leader. I'm like, are you, or are you a sympathetic leader? There's a huge difference, right? You can actually feel how and put yourself in the shoes of somebody who's dealing with something versus just feeling sorry for them. Yeah. So I do think when you're in a boardroom, it is very hard in the corporate world that we're in because capitalism drives so much and shareholders are always going to drive decision-making versus the people that are within the company. But there are leaders that I think that can have both, especially on the comms side of things. I have found that if a leader can really read the room and put themselves in the position of the people who are either having to receive bad news or the people who are really having to like be in the trenches, your people are going to galvanize with you, right? They're going to want to work with you. But as I was seeing more and more layoffs, like the biggest issue that I am finding is that we're letting go of all the kindness. We're just forgoing all of the empathy and moving straight forward with how shareholders need to view things, and the humanity is completely gone. And I think if we can actually just listen to the comms people or take a step back and put ourselves in that position, we can weave things together beautifully. So two things can be true, right? That you can actually like have organizational structure that's changing. You can innovate. You can change how the trajectory of your company while still having, I think, empathy and kindness for the people that have built it and that are within it.
Absolutely. Yeah, you called it. You hit the nail on the head when it comes to the empathy side. It really, really makes a huge difference, and people misunderstand that as well, right? I have some leaders in the organization that I've had to coach a little bit more, where some tough decisions needed to be made, but also you need to understand the other side, how they're going to react, how they're going to take it, or even understand what that means to that other person, right? And people, they don't care. They're.
I think they have a really hard time putting themselves in that position, right? Because not only that, but I think that as we get more information, we're inundated with everything that's going on in our daily lives. We forget that like everyone always has something else going on in their life that is affecting how they're showing up on a daily basis. If we could just sit back and have a little grace for the fact that we've got, busy kids, we've got sick kids, we've got people who are caretaking, we've got people who can't make their bills right now. Like there just needs to be extra layer to the thought process of what is everybody dealing with? And then how can I drive my business, or how can I create a culture that is keeping some of this in mind? I'm not telling you have to completely redo your business to meet the needs of everyone, because that is never going to happen. But just having a little bit of grace for how people are showing up is a game changer for how you lead.
Absolutely. You can't please everybody, right? But the real thing that I've seen and I've experienced as an operator here, creating that vision, here's where we're going to go. A year from now, 3 years from now, 4 years, 5 years, whatever, right? And making sure that they understand that, does that vision align with them?
Yeah.
In the things that they want to do, does that align with them? Because then we're not forcing, we're saying, now we're embodying the direction. And I see myself being part of the bigger picture through X, Y, and Z. Because sometimes people not empathetic and then they're driving and it's like, oh, you guys follow it up and that's it. That's, I guess, could work, maybe work sometimes, but it works so much more. It allows the people to really line up behind you in your the vision, the direction and the culture, right?
Yeah.
It's so much better. But and thank you for sharing. The one thing I do want to kind of expand on, or at least doing some research and kind of you and I talking, is the chief spiritual officer, right? Let's talk a little bit about that, because intuition as the leadership skills no one wants to name is, and we're calling that out. What has your experience? How did that come up, and how you're seeing that being incorporated in many organizations?
When I was originally talking to the colleagues about kind of like coming out as an intuitive medium, there were a lot of people that were very nervous that it was going to go very badly, especially on LinkedIn. I'm like, here we go. And they're like, it's really going to look like you have completely abandoned the corporate world and that you are just like fully in this other world. And I'm like, but I'm not. And it's, to me, a chief spiritual officer, I think it's helpful if I define it, but I've created kind of a platform and network, and it is really wet clay. I think it's really something that I'm still kind of like figuring out exactly how it shows up in the world. But to me, it's the permission that anyone who has a practice that is spiritual, intuitive, however, woo-woo, however you want to call it. I hate that. I hate that phrase, but I think it's a good one to use here. That it is destigmatized in the corporate world, and it should actually be used as an intuitive tool and a superpower versus something that we're like, ugh, no, thank you.
Right.
And I have found that when I started talking about it, other people were like, oh yeah, like I look at the astrology of all of the people like on my team to figure out how everybody should work best together. Or, I will launch something according to a certain date, or I will read tarot cards in the morning to figure out how I'm going to think about storytelling, or I'm using meditation. And I don't think it's just things that feel innately spiritual. Like, to me, it's also anything that can help you really connect with your purpose. Surfing, cooking, anything, walking, right? Anything that just feels innately meditative, that's going to like get you into a place of calm, but also of creative thinking. And I think disconnection of being in all of the things all of the time to allow you to actually think clearly and in a different place. So yeah, I think everyone's a chief spiritual officer. They just don't know it. And I just hope that one day everybody will lean into it and we'll all just be, I think, more even-keeled people, right?
I embody that already. I lean into it heavily, and I think it's. I see a lot of challenges right now with so much data, so many technology around us, and needing to make decisions faster, quicker, and we have information in the fingers, right, in the fingertips here. Following up to what you said is being in the present right now, because right now we're anxious about the future. Oh, we got to figure this out, blah blah blah. Or we're depressed, living in the past. I'm no good. This happened. People are, but if you go on a walk, do the things, you don't have to just sit down and meditate, but it's really being in the present, being in the moment, being in the now, where you start appreciating, start getting into, I would say the intuition comes up a little bit more, because you start feeling more, not like my purpose, but it's more like, okay, this feels good. What do I need to do? How do I make decisions, essentially? And the reason I'm bringing that up is because also in my leadership, every offsite, I kick this off with a guided meditation. So I put some music in the background, and then I start doing breathing exercise and whatever comes to me at that moment,
Yeah.
I take them on a journey, right, for 5 minutes. And at the same time, it's like getting in the moment, being in the present, having the right intention. This is a safe space where we're all going to be helping the company move forward
Yeah.
and lean in very heavily. So I'm not sure with your experience and seeing kind of working with others, how has your approach into this has helped them, and how have you been able to navigate that through and then incorporate into a smaller other organization?
Yeah. There's a few ways that I've done it. With my personal branding process, I do an Akashic record reading for every client that I work with. That is step one. I would say that I am probably a great entry point into having an intuitive reading. And to me, it just helps me get to know you and the blocks that you have so much better. And everyone always comes back and they're like, that was my favorite thing. Like I help uncover your purpose. I help uncover like where you're at, like what we're doing. And then I go into behavioral analytics. So I tie together intuitive data and behavioral data. And then we go into story mining. So it's just such a different process than I think a lot of other people do, because the brand that we're creating is really authentically you. And then another thing that I absolutely love to do is a intuitive workshop. And we launched it, myself and my business partner, Jessica, launched it at Fast Company's Innovation Festival last year. And we were the first session to sell out. And I think it was because it was a workshop. So we were doing things. People weren't talking to you, or, you were actually in it with us. And we were using pendulums for energy work and tarot for storytelling. And I will never forget that one man said to us, I came here so I could go home and prove my wife wrong. And I'm going to have to go home and apologize to her. And we were like, it was just the best. And it was so fun. And we've had such amazing feedback from it, because I think that we as humans, we are born with intuition, right? We have fight or flight. We know to run when a predator is coming towards us. We have that moment where you're like, should I hire this person? Should I not hire this person? Like, we just have that feeling, right? That knowing. And we become so data oriented, and we can talk more about the role in AI, but we're just getting to this place where we are no longer listening to that, and we are accepting all of the answers that we get back as fact.
Yeah. Exactly.
And we need that. Intuition is a tool that you have to use, and you have to it needs endurance, right? It needs nurturing. It atrophies if you don't use it. So we need to use it like anything else. It's a muscle.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And interestingly enough, in a spiritual perspective, I was exposed into, or I kind of had an experience in 2020, right around the pandemic, where I was able to go deep into it was like an executive leadership boot camp, where it was like physical activity, mental activities, as well as spiritual. And one of those spiritual, it was a deep meditation. I connected so deep, and it was like almost like my purpose. Like, this is where kind leader and kindness kind of came out. It was like, that was already part of who I was, and it's time to go and communicate it to others. Keep leading like that, keep shining that light. And it was beautiful, right? And I'm not, to your point, I was like, you just come out and say genuinely who you are, and the people that are going to appreciate it will appreciate it and come closer and collaborate. And the folks that don't, then, they weren't meant to be part of your journey.
Yeah.
You can't worry about pleasing or helping everybody. The people that are going to be in your journey, there's so many people in this world. I just came back from travel, and every time I see people, it's like, I'm never going to see that person again. I'm never going to see that. It's like, it's interesting. It's like, but we get so caught up in this world that people care. Like, obviously we care in our circle, right? But I am who I am, and people are going to, and I'm trying to do the best thing. And it sounds like you are as well. And I love your background and what you're doing to folks out there.
Thank you. I mean, it's really wild to be able to do this, and then be able to do the storytelling aspect of it and weave my two worlds together so beautifully. Because I'm still brought in with very high level companies to do kind of, the crisis comms and strategic kind of marketing and comms thinking. And I love that. That's just the entrepreneurial part of me. That's really fun. But the fact that I also get to weave together this intuitive world and this corporate world in a way that feels very natural, but also just, if I had to make up a job, that was the job that I would make up, right? It's like, I kind of can't believe I get to do this, because I love what I do. it really brings together the things that my greatest strengths, perfectly. So yeah.
And that's what people feel, right? When you're passionate about something and genuine about something, people can I love it. I want to be part of that, right? How can I help? Or what can I do, right, to be part of that? And so you're doing amazing things. Shifting to more of the, you brought up the AI here a second ago. Intuitive intelligence in the age of AI is what I was calling this area. Tell me a little bit more. Let's pull a thread on that, on your perspective of how intuition is going to help navigate through a lot of these AI changes and evolution.
AI is a fascinating tool, and I think it's going to be the most important innovation of our generation, hands down. I think it's going to cure cancer. I think we're going to, I think we're going to make such leaps and bounds by its abilities. And I think when we look back, it's the same thing as like electricity and cars and the computer and email and you know what I mean? Like things like that. But I also think we're getting quite complacent already with its use. And we are trusting everything that is giving back to us as fact. And if we cannot lean back into our intuitive intelligence of what we know, like this doesn't feel right, and or letting AI make all of our decisions for us, we're going to lose so much of our humanity.
Yeah.
We're going to lose so much of like what makes us creative, collaborative, and I think innovative beings.
Right.
So I use AI as a creative partner, but I am never going to just accept that everything that especially right now, that everything that, Claude and ChatGPT are telling me is fact.
Right.
It's just, there's just, it might make my life easier in a lot of ways. And I am a Virgo, so I tend to make my life harder no matter what I do. But right now, if we cannot lean into what our knowing is telling us and kind of what we're innately feeling back, we're all going to turn into that. You remember that movie WALL-E from Disney?
Yeah.
We're all going to turn into that. It's like, that doesn't sound like fun. I know. Yeah.
Oh man, it's a good movie.
Yeah.
I agree with you. And I think a lot of great points that you're bringing up, especially with, a lot of people are not tapping into the intuition. They're not really, I don't know if they're afraid or they don't know what it is, but everybody has that capability, right? And I know you were telling us a story about how you were creating this workshop and people were like, you I don't want to use the word convert, but you were able to show that this is, genuine.
Yeah.
How are leaders potentially able to understand, like if they needed to, for example, on day one, like next Monday, right? And they want to start and I want to be more intuitive, especially, nowadays. How could they go about doing that? What is the first thing, or what are some of the things that you recommend that they do?
Yeah. I always felt like with spiritual work, let's say, even wellness, let's just start with wellness, that breath work and guided meditation is like the best entree point possible. I think a lot of people think that they need psychedelics to be able to like disconnect, and breath work will get you there faster than anything else. and then you can get right back into work. Because I think we as humans, the hardest thing that we do is one of the hardest things we do is like disconnecting from the busyness and all the information that's coming back to us in our brain, right? And because we're on our phones all day long, and because we're on screens all day long, or we're commuting, or we're listening to podcasts, or we are receiving too much information on a daily basis. So anybody who's starting to think about this, I don't ever recommend meditation. I am a terrible meditator. Sitting down and oming is not my jam. A guided meditation is something that I can get into. I actually, in 2020, they don't have it anymore, but there was this like breathwork guided meditation with like hip hop music and and it was wild. Like it was some of the stuff, it was insane. Or like pop music too. It was so cool. So I think you just need to find what works for you. I mean, I have a dear friend who's gotten very into boxing, and that is their meditative state. Yeah. So I think that's where you start. But then I also just think put yourself in something that is something you would never, ever do. Like, I'm going to go get a tarot reading just because I think it's interesting. Or I'm going to pick up this book or listen to this podcast that's talking about a practice that I had never even thought about, because that could be cool. So I just think we have got to get out of our own way most of the time because we are the block that is not getting us to where we want to go.
Yeah.
You know?
We get into the pattern, right? Like pattern doing the same thing, waking up, go to work, come back, eat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. And to your point, it's like the minute you start changing some things, do something different, you're not only your mind and your body is like, oh, this is interesting, or this actually sucked. Now you can try something different, right? But it changes a routine and it allows you to get into a different rhythm.
Yeah. One of the best pieces of advice I got was like, you need to put your pants on, like by your left leg to right leg if you do right leg to left leg every day. Or you need to, go the different way that you normally walk. Or you need to brush your teeth at a different time in the morning. So it was just like, how do you get out of your routine? Which I always thought was super interesting. And it really does kind of like trigger your brain to do something totally different. My favorite year of my life, when I turned 35, every month I did something that scared me.
Oh, wow.
Or something that I'd never done before. Like I got a tattoo and I took trapeze lessons. Like I did, oh my God, it was so fun. But it was just stuff that and I was like, and it was when Groupon was really big. So I was like, I'm very dedicated to this. Like I am just going to find super random stuff. Yeah. And we're living in a time right now that is so fun because connection and community is so important.
Yes.
If you were living anywhere near a major metropolitan area, there is something free going on the weekend that people are getting into.
Oh yeah.
So the best piece of advice I can give to anyone is like, go out and try go to something you've never done before and talk to a stranger when you're there.
Love it.
It's free. You know what I mean? You got nothing to lose.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. You never know who you're going to meet too, right?
Exactly.
I mean, you never know.
Well, and as we talked about, like everyone comes into your journey for a reason, right? Exactly. Everyone finds you when they're supposed to.
That's how I see, that's how I live my life, right? I just came back from a trip and I was telling you about looking at people, people watching, but then also when I'm in meetings, I was in Panama and El Salvador just to have a Latin America expansion plan here in the next few years. But when I was meeting with people and connecting with people, I'm good at reading or feeling, I don't know how you want to describe it, energy.
Yeah.
Almost to a point where sometimes I get the aura of these individuals, right? Like
cool.
The colors and stuff like that. Yeah, awesome. It's pretty interesting. And I was like, oh, wow. Okay. So, which sometimes I'm like, I'm not doubting, but sometimes I need to verify and validate by asking a little more questions from these individuals. But I love that. That's me leading from my intuition. Yeah. This is me really understanding whether it's, I don't want to say right or wrong, whether it's, people accept it or don't accept it. I don't think I've shared this in the podcast in the past, but it works for me.
I just want to say something about that. One of the things that I have found really interesting is that if you go into like kind of the spiritual TikTok, social media threads of the world, a lot of people are very adamant about the way that you need to do things. This is how you return energy. This is how you're going to do a reading. If you're looking at auras, like this is what they mean. Even the woman that wrote about the angel numbers, Doreen Virtue, in the early 2000s, came out a couple years ago and was like, I made all of this up. So everyone's practice is going to look different.
Of course.
Everyone's is going to be uniquely theirs. So anyone who's listening, who's doing this and thinks that they're doing it wrong, I just want to reiterate, like, you're just doing it your way. There is no wrong in this. Like you know what I mean? Like, we are tapping into something that is so unique and so special to us. So anybody who tells you, no, that's not how you do it.
That's not right.
That's not right. No, it's your thing. And if that's that's how you're connecting, then like more power to you, man. Because I just think we all need to be connected in that way.
Beautiful. Yeah. I did have, coming back to the Akashic records.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more. I'm intrigued about that because I've heard about it in the past and in other things that I've been, read or listened to, right? But bringing it into the business world, I'm really interested in how that works.
I position myself as an intuitive medium versus an Akashic record reader. It's just, I feel like it's easier to digest. I'm a branding comms person. So it's like, I want to make this as easy as possible. I have always been very intuitive since I was a child. Friends in our family, like half of us are, half of us aren't. It is what it is. But when it comes to the Akashic records, there were 3 different people that were like, you need to meet this woman, Helen. And I'm like, okay. I looked on Helen's website. She was an Akashic record reader and her readings were very expensive. And I'm like, okay. Which is I'm also now very expensive. So I guess it is what it is, right? In the grand scheme of things. And I saw that she had a class and I was like, oh, I'll just take the class. And no, I was like, maybe she'll read me in class and I'll get a 2 for 1. This will all be great. And the Akashic records really are the best way to describe it, are a library of our soul's journey, past, present, future. When I get into the Akashic records, I am talking to your guides and I just have like a very clear view of where you've been and where you're going. Now, I don't believe that we are like fated into one direction or not. We have free will and we can choose what we want to do at any moment of the day. But I use the records as the place that I go. I don't need the records anymore. I can kind of connect in a different way, but I strongly believe in spiritual boundaries. So there is a time when I go in, I'm with my clients, and then there's a time when I come out and then we like let go. I don't want people to think that I'm just like reading them all the time. I think that's the question that I get most often is, well, are you just reading everybody all the time? No, I mean like that. No, that would just I'm still very much attuned to the fact that there are bills to be paid and there are things that need to be done. And like we were put on the earth at this time to do the human things. So we kind of need to do the human things that allow us to learn the lessons that we're supposed to learn. So that is why I'm like the least like woo-woo person you're ever going to meet, because I'm very grounded in my role in this world, but also how I am here to help people.
Beautiful. Well said there, Elizabeth. I appreciate the description of that and how you approach from a business perspective. I think a lot of people, although it might be a little bit different, not I don't think it'd be weird, just different, right? People sometimes are afraid of change or afraid of the unknown, right? Yeah. So, but some of the stuff that I've seen and it's read, heard, listened to, whatever, there's some really interesting stuff out there. And I've experienced it myself, where I am putting a lot of that intentionality into through my intuitive nature and kind of highlighting some of my leaders too. Hey, let's lean into that a little bit more, right? What's your gut telling you? Not just look at data. Data is one thing, but also what is your gut telling you? Is this good? Not good, right?
And our gut is where all that institutional knowledge lives too. Right? It's like, exactly. I've seen this show before. What are we doing here? Like how are we taking the lessons from the past and then moving them into the future? So I just think that is one of the things that we cannot overlook as we are building what's next.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing. All right. So it's time to flip the mic. Yeah. Do you have a question for me?
I do. What's your best piece of advice for all of your leaders? One blanket piece of advice.
I think it's believing in yourself. I think a lot of people are wanting to be the best for everybody, wanting to become that person they need to be for X, Y, and Z person, right? Or listen, what do you think I should do? What do you think I should do? It really starts within. It starts within your soul, your heart, what you're here to do, right? So believe in that yourself, believe in what comes up. What is your purpose here? And that's all that matters, right? And keep driving it, keep pushing it. I mean, I can see it. That's how it comes to you, right? As you were, I was like, oh, should I do that now? No, you did it and went forward. Same thing with me. Should I do this kind leader? Although I'm a technology person, right? Who's going to listen to me? I'm doing it. I'm making a difference, right? So believe in those ideas and those thoughts that are coming within, and nothing's going to stop you. So.
That's great advice. I love it. Yeah.
Thank you for the question there. I appreciate it. All right, let's go into the rapid fire questions. One word answer here. What's the single most overrated trait in modern leadership?
Overworking.
Overworking. Yeah. Love it.
Like no boundaries. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You've sat in rooms with a lot of well-known individuals, right? And some iconic leaders in the last, 50 years. What's one thing they all had in common that nobody talks about?
I want to say their kindness. I think about Norman Lear and I think about Lee Clow. And I also think perseverance. They were both very obviously creative, innovative. I mean, they changed their industries drastically, and the people around them felt that deeply. But both of these men were unbelievably kind to me, and I think always lifted me up to ensure that I was in the rooms that I needed to be in. Even when I worked with Norman, I was 26 years old. So
Wow.
I was young, maybe younger than that. So, and I think the other thing about both of them too, I just think about them because they're so iconic, but knowing what you don't know, and ensuring that you have the people around you that can do the things that you can't.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, one more. Yeah. Finish the sentence. The next generation of leaders will be the first ones who
have work-life balance.
Okay. All right.
Maybe, maybe not. I don't know.
It's funny when
I
was
don't know if that
down,
exists, but yeah.
No, I think it does. Yeah. Right? You got to drive it if that's the thing. But I really was thinking the answer would be from an intuitive, right? But
I mean, I would hope so. There's such an awakening happening right now. I would hope that is the truth. But as I look at the generations that are coming and I look at how AI is actually going to help us, I do hope that we start pushing back on this idea that we need to be working 100 hours a week.
Yeah.
That led to obviously we talked about led to my burnout but that also led to my complete, career pivot and change that I needed to make too. Yeah. So I don't know. I can't wait to see what they do and what is next because...
Me too. I'm excited. And I think this is the platform, the things that you're doing, the things that I'm doing. I'm hoping that people do listen, young leaders out there coming out of school, right, that are looking for some guidance, that this is the new leadership style. This is, caring about
people. It has to be.
Yeah, it has to be. We didn't really talk too much about the burnout, right? And, I know there's articles out there that you've written, but if there's one, I want to give you the floor to highlight a little bit about that. If there's one leader listening out right now who is exhausted, quietly burning out, secretly wondering if they lost touch with who they are, and they only hear one thing from you in this entire conversation, what do you want them to walk away with?
There is no silver bullet for burnout recovery. Your recovery is going to be very personal, and you need to take the time to figure out how to recover from there. Everybody was like, have you tried this? What about this? And I appreciate so many people wanting to help, but at the same time, I think everyone, no matter who you are, is going to burn out. And everyone's burnout is going to look different. So everyone's recovery is going to look different. And then once you do burn out, you're going to see what that looks like. And I think having an accountability partner who can see your burnout coming before you can, which is unbelievably common, and trusting that person when they do tell you that they can see it coming is really important, I think, to have in your life. But just know that burnout is not the end of the world for most. It's a very weird rite of passage in an American way.
Yeah.
And it can lead to really amazing things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I appreciate that. That's good advice. And that's one thing that we strive for. I mean, there's so many things that you could do. I mean, that you have to do, right? Like people are like, oh, you got to get this done, this done. It's really the end of the day is about you, about you and your health and what you want to accomplish. Things can wait. A lot of things can wait, right? So, but I appreciate your perspective on that and using that challenge as an opportunity to grow. And that's the biggest. That's the biggest takeaway, I think, from this conversation is not just, I know we didn't talk too much about the burnout, but just understanding who you are. And then you started pivoting into becoming, this intuitive individual, right? And incorporating that into your world, into the business world with a little bit of hesitation. But the reality is you were surprised afterwards that people were open to it,
Yeah. So. And the thing too about burnout is I think that people think that it only happens when you hate your job. And I loved my job. So, I mean, this happened when I was working for Apple, and I loved what I was doing, and I was traveling the world, and I was working with the most creative people in the industry. And I do think that when it is addressed, it can lead to a lot of personal and professional growth should you allow it to, and should you take that opportunity. And that's, like we said, that's going to look different for everybody too, right? It's like there is not a one size fits all on any of this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm walking away from this conversation, Elizabeth, with some really good insights on not only what you've accomplished, but also some things from a burnout perspective, as well as from spirituality. Keep leaning into that more, right? There's no perfect way of doing that, right? And how I do it is my way. How you do it is your way. How they're going to do it is their way. But as long as it's with the right intention and helping everybody rise together to become the better version of themselves, and looking at from a serving and giving rather than taking, right? An abundance mindset rather than scarcity mindset. I think all those things will allow you to become that person. And it's really about that impact and just being that kind leader that we all strive to be. So I appreciate you being part of this conversation, Elizabeth. And before we do wrap up, where can people find you, follow your work, and subscribe to the Chief Spiritual Officer?
Yeah. So Chief Spiritual Officer is on Substack. You can find me there. And my website is thegoodadvicecompany.com. I love LinkedIn as a platform. It's in a weird state right now, but I still post there often. So you can find me there too. Awesome.
Yeah, definitely reach out to her and learn more about her. And I'll definitely reach out to you more. I want to learn more.
We need to do some workshops together. That would be so fun.
Absolutely. Yeah. I want to go deep into these Akashic records, because there's a whole different area that we didn't really touch because I knew we were going to run out of time. So maybe we have a second conversation going deeper into spirit guides and Akashic records, and then how all that is really helping us into the business world. But it's first of many for sure. So thank you for your time. I appreciate you, the great conversation we had.
Thank you.
And for our listeners out here, thank you for being a great kind leader listener here with us. And remember, be kind, bring value, rise together. Have an amazing day, everybody.